Because the first call of Genesis 1 was the vocation of humanity, what they were supposed to do in their relationship with the world. And so how do we practice this aspect of recreation? So when I say the word recreation, what are some of the things that come to mind? Snowboarding, hiking, swimming, hockey, just fill in time, activity, right? Recreation is sort of like this relaxing thing, sort of like time off. We have this perspective that it's like taking a hike, going on a picnic. But really, this phrase of recreation in our culture really comes back to a theological vision of the Christian worldview of recreation. And recreation is actually quite a deep, substantive concept throughout Scripture. And so think of this. When we read Genesis, we read that God created the world. And what's fascinating is when we look to the gospel accounts of understanding who Jesus is, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they all begin very unique ways. But John begins by saying what? Does anyone know? In the beginning. And what John is telling us in his gospel is he's making a new recreation story through the lens of Jesus. Even the Gospel of Matthew, which we're going to be jumping into in a few weeks, the Gospel of Matthew begins, some would say, is the most boring book of the Bible. But how does the Gospel of Matthew begin? The genealogy is the list of names, right? But what Matthew is saying through the genealogy is he's giving us a new Genesis, a beginning of the story of Jesus. And what the story of Jesus tells us is that God is bringing about recreation to the cosmos and to our lives. And we, as the church, now partner in that recreation.